Today we've got Michael from City of Auburn, and it's probably a new band for a lot of you all who are listening. It's a band that you guys aren't like a legacy band at this point. It's not like you've been around for 20 plus years, but
No, yeah.
you guys are a band that people should know about. You guys are
Definitely.
really freaking good.
Yeah.
It really you do feel like one of those bands where it's like, how have more people not heard of you yet? So we're doing the best that we can to make it to make City of Auburn a little bit more well known. So, but with all of that said, we're going to talk about new music, all those different things, history of the band. But before we get into all of that, how are you doing today, Michael?
I'm good. Thanks for having me, Mason, Cullen. It means the world. I've seen that HM logo for pretty much all of my life, so it's an
Heck
honor
yeah.
to be
Love
here.
it.
So,
Love it.
um,
You know, one of my favorite things that you're on, just immediately, first impression, right? You look better than Mason does.
It's true.
Every time someone gets on here, they look like they're, shooting from a 2004 Nokia cell phone.
I was
And man, you've got production on your end.
no,
here.
it's. I was talking with Mason before you got on the call, but I was doing my homework a little bit, and I saw the Project 86 episode because I didn't know there was a video portion of this. I always just saw the podcast.
Which
And
is a reminder to you all who are not watching this on YouTube. You should watch it on YouTube as well.
Like and subscribe.
I was watching that episode and then I once I realized that there was a video portion, I kind of freaked out a bit because I don't have any of that stuff. So my brother, he lives basically next door, and he's got a big gaming setup, and he streams with his friends on Discord and everything. I was like, hey man, can I borrow everything tomorrow night? And he set up a microphone and a camera, and we got it all situated last night. And I feel this is all optics. This is way more professional than what I have any.
This is how you're gonna have to do your Zoom meetings from now on.
Yeah, exactly. Just
You
borrow
really
it
like
from
you just
my
pop
brother.
on and you just like intimidate your boss.
Yeah. It's like, man, we're really overpaying that guy. But no, yeah, this is all my brother's equipment. So
That's awesome.
Love
Well,
it.
let's talk about history of City of Auburn. Again, you guys are. It's not like you're brand new, and it's not like you
Right.
guys just started last year. But yeah, talk a little bit about the history. Maybe before we even get into like the actual formation of the band, how did you just get into music in general?
Oh man, I grew up. My parents were both pretty musical. My dad was a drummer, and my mom was a singer. And I might have been too young to remember this, but my dad used to play drums on the worship team, and then my mom used to sing in the worship team, and we always grew up in youth groups and church cultures where I was just basically surrounded by instruments. And since my parents were on the worship team, I was always backstage or something because I was always hanging out with them, and I've always wanted to like play on drums or be the center of attention, being the vocalist. And I feel like I've always had like a general interest in that stuff. But then I think it was around I was homeschooled. I forget what grade I actually was in, because homeschooling you're just hanging out at home. I really don't know like what grade I'm really in. But I got down to a point where in my homeschooling years, I was also doing like, I was also just doing like, I forget what it's called. Is it little league base? I was a kid who played baseball. I was in the sports and doing like the local the sports and everything. And I was actually pretty active. I tried to dabble my feet in everything. I did basketball, I did t-ball, softball, baseball. I did golf. I kind of did everything, but I really had my heart set on baseball. And there was this, basically the little league team all decided, we're going to have baseball practices on Sunday mornings, and that's how it's going to be for the next however long, which is such a massive conflict for so many families because of church or whatever. And
Right.
I was one of them.
Right.
And so
that just ended your baseball career.
Exactly. It ended everything that I wanted to do with sports ever. And
you could have been the next Barry Bonds, and here you are now.
I know. And now I'm just
a
guy. I had to find an interest that wasn't sports after that point. And that's when music kind of became a thing, because my older brother, I have an older brother and a younger brother. My younger brothers let me borrow all this equipment. My older brother, he was also in the sports the same way I was, and the thing that he picked up was music. And he started taking piano lessons, and I was like, "That's really cool and all, but like piano is boring, and I still can't have this coordination with my fingers." So I really wanted to get into like guitar or bass, and failed at all of it until I came around to drums. And then that's where I really started to kind of like diving into music and diving into like parts and how things are kind of constructed a little bit. And when 6th grade came along, I got to go into band because that was my first year in public school.
You didn't have band practice on Sunday mornings, did you?
No, after church. But you know, I always had stuff I wanted to do on the weekends with band. Like I always would like sneak into the band hall to play drums because I didn't have drums at church or drums at home. And I guess that's the only way I could get around the whole not on Sunday mornings thing. But that's how I got into it.
Well, at what point did you go from, all right, I'm gonna play just worship music, which is essentially just playing cover songs, probably like at that time Chris Tomlin stuff, and to a point where you're like, actually, there's music that I do like that I can play that music instead, and not just my mom and dad's music.
It's cool because you know, growing up in that environment, everything we listen to is if you didn't find it in a family Christian store, it's non-negotiable. You can't play it.
Right.
But the thing is like my dad always like played Striper and always played like heavier, like quote unquote heavier style music.
You're the cool Christian dad.
Yeah. I remember coming in and he had his, his cassettes and his CDs, and he also had like White Cross and I forget what band it is, but there's some
Petra.
We had so much Petra. But I forget what band it was, but they had an album called Last Train. I forget what that band was called. But I listened to that album religiously. I also did Rough Staff.
I'm looking it up right now.
Yeah, it's like I have the album art in my head. I know what the album is called, Last Train.
Holy Soldier?
Mm-hmm. That's
Holy
it.
Soldier.
I listened to that so much as a kid. That Blood Good.
Blood Good, yeah.
Yeah, my dad introduced me to a lot of that stuff, and eventually that kind of got into, obviously that's all like my dad's music. When it came down to like me discovering what music I wanted, I kind of learned stuff from my older brother, depending on what youth group he was a part of. Because since he was older and he was a bit more social than me, so he kind of got into more music than I did. And everything that he liked, he would share and kind of trickle down. And that's when I kind of like got into, the Skillets and the Reds, the Disciples and everything. And kind of
Did we make it past that? Did we make it past that phase?
Yeah. Okay. So all those bands I have a reverence for that time. I've definitely moved on past,
Thank God.
Yeah.
Were you
this was going to be a painful interview if you were still in your like unironic Skillet phase.
No. Yeah, okay. So
were you ever into the Skillet phase when John Cooper was still cross-dressing?
No. Okay. So what was that, like Alien Youth? I think
Alien Youth.
Alien Youth. Okay.
So I was everything.
I was a post Alien Youth, pre-Awake fan of Skillet. So I entered in right when like Savior was just blasting on every.
Honestly, Collide might be their best album.
Collide is phenomenal.
It's a great album.
I absolutely love that record. Yeah. Like Collide and Comatose together, I think are some of the best rock records. Like this might be a step too far, but I genuinely have such reverence for those two records. And I just cannot stand a single thing that's happened past that point. And so me and my brother, whenever Skillet releases a new record, we will listen to it the day of in full. And we just go off for like a 4-hour rant over how bad it was. And it's something I genuinely look forward to at this point.
Don't you feel like a monster though?
Good God.
Maybe when I listen to Skillet, I become awake and alive or something. But they're so bad. I've moved past it, but it gives me so much. it gives me so much joy for all the wrong reasons. It is
So you
such
said you were a
funny
Disciple fan. Have you ever busted your eye open at a Disciple concert?
I did not.
Okay, so you're not really that Christian, I get it.
Mason did that.
I saw them when I was real young. I think I saw them with, I think it was Seventh Day Slumber, which that's a whole other can of worms.
Oof,
but
yeah.
yeah,
Oh, gosh.
whoa.
Oh my gosh.
I saw Disciple a few times. I know I saw them at Six Flags with Skillet at one point, and that was like peak youth group. Like
At Six Flags?
Euphoria. Yeah, it was Red, Disciple, Skillet, and Decipher Down. Yeah, Decipher Down.
Oh,
Red,
God, I mean, it's
Wow,
just
I
like
forgot.
yeah,
about
it
that,
was like
man.
youth group Euphoria at Six Flags. and they premiered playing Monster that night. It was right
Oh
before
my.
Awake was going to come out. And they
Damn.
played Monster and Awake. No, Hero. And we heard like the drummer sing for the first time. And as a middle schooler, I'm just like, this can't get any better. And that record sucks. And I can't.
I can
I'm
just
not over
imagine
it.
being at Six Flags and Six Flags is like, hey, we're unveiling a brand new roller coaster called the Monster. And then Skillet's like, oh my gosh, perfect promotional opportunity right
Yeah,
here.
like branding everything. We saw Jen and Ben when Ben was in the band, and we saw them get off. I think it was the Mr. Freeze. It was a ride I refused to ride, but they came off of it, and we got to talk with them for a little bit, and that was kind, and that was really cool.
Remember that Six Flags commercial that was like with that song where it was like din 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 din
They like to party by the Venga Boys. Yeah, I remember that.
That song probably lives rent free in my head in some way, in some form of consciousness. I'm still singing along to that one.
Yeah,
You guys need to come on the stage with that song sometime.
Yeah,
well, dude, we've done the whole we've done the what's that one SpongeBob episode where it's like we've walked out to that one. That one goes over super well because everybody knows it.
That's awesome. That's a
we haven't done the
brilliant
Six
idea.
Flags one.
Actually, you guys need to come out onto stage, especially since like you grew up like youth group kids, and I would imagine a lot of your audience has. You definitely need to come out to like either Pirates Who Don't Do Anything or Where's My Hairbrush or something. One of the silly songs with Larry.
That is so.
Water
Is that not a good
song.
idea?
That is
The
such
Water
a good
Buffalo
idea.
song, all the way.
Okay, so we played with this one band in our area. They're called Van Full of Nuns. They're a pop punk cover band.
That's a great name.
I know, their name is awesome. And we were trying to come up with like pop punk songs to cover because they always ask us like, you got to do 3 or 4 covers inside your set. And I'm like, that's fine. Like, it's a lot of fun and it makes people connect with music. But like, I didn't grow up on like any like mainstream pop punk anything. It was always like the Tooth and Nail alternative or the Flicker Records alternative. And so we were like really going back and forth over like, what do we do? Because I never listened to My Chemical Romance. I never listened to Seosin. I never listened to Sum 41 or whatever. It was always the alternative.
Could do like what? Maybe 1 or 2 Ryan K songs, but
that's literally exactly what we did. We did Who I Am Hates Who I've Been. And when we play it in Texas, everyone goes wild. But when we played it in Denver, nobody knew it. And I was just like, oh, I forget Bible Belt versus somewhere else. It's like
versus the heathens up north.
That's right.
Like it was just so funny. Like
those pot smokers that listen to 5 Iron Frenzy up in Denver.
Oh my god, I love 5 Iron Frenzy. It's so dope. Like but we were like going back and forth. I'm like, I had no idea that this cover needed a market. You know, we were like, we have to play it in certain states and it doesn't go over well in other places. And it was a whole conversation.
They were just like, wow, this band is playing an original song.
That was their best song. And yeah, but we did Reliant K. We've done Reinventing Your Exit. And then we went into like, we did Check Yes Juliet, and we've done Sex from the 1975. We've done a whole bunch of other stuff that we listen to now, but I just never grew up with any of that stuff. So it was so hard to construct like covers to do. But yeah, like Reliant K was like the first thing that came to mind. I was like, Who I Am Who I've Been would be a perfect one to go off of.
For sure.
But what was the original question?
We went off.
Yeah, we totally went off a tangent. But yeah, basically, well, I think I had talked a little bit about or asked how did you initially get into music? But
Oh
then
yeah,
how did
yeah.
you move from like just listening to your parents' music and, playing that kind of music to the point where you're like, I want to make my own kind of music, and this music is probably going to sound way different than just worship music.
Right. Yeah. I think um I was kind of going through like a lot of records I grew up on, including the ones I listed out earlier, but I would basically trickle down anything that my older brother would bring home, whether he bought it at Mardell or Christian Family Store or whatever, and he'd bring home a CD, and I just read over the lyrics or whatever and be like, you know what, that's pretty good. I like that, and eventually finding my own artists. But I think it's it's actually funny. This isn't like a super influential album on my life or band even, but I remember going on MySpace at the time, and it never was like explained to me because I just don't think it needed an explanation. But I just thought all the bands that existed have always existed. Like I didn't know that like there were new bands forming and that people could make like there was just musicians who have been around for forever and they just released new records. But I just didn't know there were new bands. So I remember my brother brought home a Fireflight album. It was their first record.
Oh man.
And such a throwback. And they brought home that record and I think Day of Fire's first album.
Oh, that's a good record.
Oh,
that record
that is a deep cut right there. Day
that
of Fire.
is such a good record. I still jam
they were
that
good
one.
songwriters. Very good songwriters.
Yeah, like they even the radio songs on that record are still like very well written. And
Yeah.
I remember listening to Day of Fire and Fireflight at this time and being like, oh man, I want to go look at what other stuff they've released. And my brother was like, this is all they have. And it just clicked in my head like, oh, there are new bands and I can just go start a band or write music. I just thought it was all pre-existing artists that are just continually releasing things. I just never knew that there could be.
You're like the Calvinist of the genre, or the Calvinist of the music world.
It's like this is all there is. There's nothing. Yeah,
it is
all predetermined. Yeah.
It's like the Bible. It's like, all right, there was a point where these things were being written, and then all of a sudden the people decided, all right, no more of them.
Any band after this point is not music. It's not a band.
It's almost like when like when you realize that black and white films, like the past was not black and white.
Oh my gosh, I'm guilty of thinking that. When I was a kid, I was like, wait a second. How did they
when did color happen?
But no, it's funny because I don't, I'll easily choose the Day of Fire record over the Fireflight record, but like I just remember like nowadays, like I'll go back and listen to that one, but I just remember it just clicked in my head like, oh, like if people are still creating new music, then what can I create? And then that just kind of went down the rabbit hole of like, what music do I like and what music do I want to replicate and what music do I actually want to be a part of? And do I want to be the drummer? Do I want to be the bass player? Do I want to be, whatever? And for the longest time, I was the drummer for things. And then I never became the singer for something until City of Auburn. Because all throughout high school and middle school, I played drums for like metalcore projects and metal bands. And then when City of Auburn was the solo project that I had in my, like, I would go up to my metal bands and be like, hey, I think we should do something like this. And they'd always reject the ideas. And I'd be like, well, screw you. I'm just going to start my own project with all my own ideas. And it just ended up
Aaron Gillespie did.
Yeah. Oh, dude. Aaron Gillespie, like the Almost record changed my world. Cause I was like, oh, he can play everything. I think maybe I could play everything and sound like that too, because I think that works.
Did you in those metalcore kind of bands? Were you doing the Aaron Gillespie thing where you were drumming and singing at the same time? Because you got a great singing voice, so it's like why would a band not take advantage of that?
I did.
Were you the good cop to the bad cops?
No, yeah, because like it was strange because I always wanted to be a screamer, but I knew that the singer I guess like gets more attention or whatever. So I was like, no, I'll be the singer. I'll take the burden of being the guy with all the attention. But I was in a band. I was in several little bands, but none of us like recorded anything substantial except one band. I was in a band called Citadel, and it's very hard to find this album on a streaming service because there's like 50 different bands called Citadel. We thought we were so unique, but it's all,
Who
many bands.
who was the Fallout fan that came up with that name?
The what?
The Fallout game series fan who came up with that name.
Oh. I think we were looking at old Elvish terms, which Citadel isn't even an Elvish term. So I don't know if we ever accomplished our goal or whatever. Because okay, so Citadel released a full-length record, and it's a fantasy concept allegory like Lord of the Rings. And that's why we wanted like an elven name. But that's the only piece of like that time of my life that was actually recorded professionally and released and everything. And I'm singing on a few songs while also doing the drums. And in the back of my mind, I'm like, dude, I'm totally Aaron Gillespie. I'm totally Aaron Gillespie-ing this. And I rode that wave. I rode that wave for forever. And then starting my own solo project, which I guess I should preface, City of Auburn started off solo and then became a band.
Right.
And that's when, I kind of realized that, yeah, I can write music alone and it's fine, but it's not as great as maybe I want it to be. So that's when I kind of transferred it to a band. And that's kind of where I guess the true iteration of City of Auburn started. So, really Day of Fire and Fireflight are responsible for everything that we do, for better or worse.
I think that's the only thing Fireflight's been responsible for. That's positive.
I can't imagine there's too many. Hey, I started a band because of Day of Fire. I can't imagine there's too many of those that
exist. It's like Day of Fire existed, so therefore I can exist.
Oh man,
I still love that.
That's
record.
Amazing.
So I don't know if that answers.
It's a great
question,
record,
but that's how that I guess came about.
What was their like big song? Wasn't it like something like Cut and Move? Was that
Cut and Move? Yeah, that's the best one in my opinion.
Their first record had Cornerstone that it played on everything. I thought there was another one, Rain Song or something. That one was everywhere, but Cut and Move was like their big one on their second record. It's not as good, but their first record is. I still have such fond memories of that one. But Cut and Move is still a banger.
All right, so you started City of Auburn. Yeah, what has been the experience since you guys have, started the band? And I know you guys have obviously some recordings out. You've got a full length. I know you got like EP. Yeah, what's that experience been like over the last few years now?
It's so much better to write in a band than being solo. I feel like because okay, when I started City of Auburn, it was kind of out of desperation to be creative, not like with all the ideas that I felt like the other bands I was in would just reject. And so it was almost kind of like, it was more like I think this idea is great and I'm just going to make it happen. And then you listen back to the recording and you're like, no, this was not the good thing at all. And then when you're listening to more influences, you kind of get more of an idea of like what kind of sound you want to pay for yourself. And I kind of got to this point where I didn't know how to make the sounds that I wanted. Because with guitar and bass and drums and singing, like I feel like, and this is not to be, holier than thou, but I feel like I'm pretty good with drums and I'm pretty good as a vocalist. But with drums, with bass and guitar, I know power chords and that's it. And I can be real creative with them, but I can't have like a career doing that. I just don't have I don't know how to piece together everything. So when I got my guitar player, Jordan, he joined the band when we did our EP Spinning in 2000. We recorded it in 2017. We released it in 18, I think. And it was night and day difference because I could go up to him and be like, hey man, have you ever listened to Anberlin? I kind of want to sound like them. And he's just like, hold my beer. And he just starts writing music. And I'm like, oh, I love this sound. And then we can go back and forth and like how we want to structure things. And I think that it's so much better to bounce ideas around with somebody. And even when I was very young writing music, I was like, I don't want to work with a producer. I don't want to be held back. I'm like, please get me in with a producer. I want that extra collaboration. I want it to sound like how my heroes sound. And I want that to be like, I don't want to listen to any record that I do 20 years from now and feel like, I listened to a trend or a really bad idea that I was just so like, dead set on. I want to listen to something 20 years from now and feel like, oh, this is actually still a good song. This is still
Holds
like
up.
something I can resonate with way later, to feel like I actually wrote music in a band versus like writing music as trends or like feelings or whatever.
Yeah.
But writing with the band has been awesome. I
It's
love my
interesting
guys.
you don't have a production background, because one of the first things that came to mind when I was listening to your music for the first time, I was like, this is just really well produced. You've got really good
Yeah.
songwriting, so it's just well written and it's well produced. And usually when I hear something, especially nowadays, when I hear something that's really well produced, it means that that person has some sort of production background. And it doesn't sound like that's the case for you. So it's just interesting that you have such well produced sounding music. And then obviously you're a really good songwriter, so you get that coming through the music as well. But there's just something about the production of your music that's really outstanding.
Thank you. So I guess the best way to explain is I grew up, like when my older brother got into music, he got really into like music theory, and he got really into like what makes music tick in forms of like scaling and keys and what because there are sounds that are more emotional, and they're like, that's why worship music sounds the way that it does and death metal sounds the way that it does. There's things you can do within music to make a certain thing happen. And I am not a music theory nerd at all. I have tried. I wanted to be an audio engineer in college, long after City of Auburn even started. And I had to take semesters of music theory, and I bombed them so bad that I dropped out and they wouldn't let me retake them. So I'm not a music theory guy at all. But being around my older brother and listening to his influences and how he can explain how this is more musically sound than this other alternative. It kind of like, and it's not even in a way that like, I don't feel like my premonitions or views on certain genres or bands or whatever are skewed because of that. But I can definitely see I can see the contrast between listening to Abandon All Ships and Mozart. You know what I mean? Like there's an
Sure.
obvious difference there, because one is dense and one is not. And I think that I kind of listen to music through that lens. And like I started listening to a lot of bands that, basically everything on Tooth and Nail, and listening to like, well, who produced these records and how did they make this thing happen? And I just kept coming back to like, there's such big sounds here. There's such melodic density to things. There's big choruses. There's good voices. There's everything has its own unique timbre. And that was just very attractive to me. So when City of Auburn went to go do our spinning EP, I had one EP before that called Soul Searcher, and that's the only one that's released to the public as me solo. I had another EP before that was removed from the internet immediately, like 10 days after I posted it up, because it's just so bad. I should have called the album Symbols, because it's all you hear. It's mixed so horribly and it's so bad. But Soul Searcher is the only thing out there that's solo. And so you can kind of tell the difference between that EP and spinning, because for spinning we were very honored and fortunate to work with Matt Goldman, and he's done Under Oath, The Chariot, Amberlin, he's done Haste the Day, he's done Becoming the Archetype, he's done so many monumental bands in my life, and we got to work with him out of pure luck and basically, long story short, we had a manager that basically screwed us over, but we still ended up with Matt Goldman, and we went into the studio with basically no songs written, and we finished 2 days in advance everything there, and it should have been a total nightmare, but it just wasn't, because Goldman knows what he's doing. And I felt like me and Jordan, when we were writing that record, we knew the sound that we wanted and we knew how to achieve it, but we didn't know how to like master it. And so when we went to Goldman, it was just the last missing piece. And I hold that experience so unbelievably dear to my heart. There's there's this one song on Spinning. It's the last one on the record. It's called Joy. And Matt Goldman's manager is someone that we work with as well. And basically, the deal was, if you guys can finish 3 full songs within a week, if you have some extra time left over, we'll throw in another song for free under the condition that it's only vocal and acoustic. And so we were like, bet. We finished 3 days in advance, and Matt was like, I honestly didn't expect this to happen, so you guys write something. I'm going to a convention with my son. And he comes back from the studio, and we're down to the last day of recording, and this is the one song that we wrote fully in studio. We didn't have anything prepared beforehand, which always nerve-wracks me because I always want to be over-prepared to go into anything. And Goldman basically, like, since we finished 3 days in advance, there was like 2 days we didn't do anything because we were just writing. And the last day comes around, and Goldman's like, all right, man, like, what's the holdup, dude? Like, we gotta record this thing. And I was super fresh and super green. And I was like, listen, man, like, I know this sounds immature, and I know that this sounds weird, but like, I'm finding it's really hard for me to find inspiration when I'm just this pressured and I'm whatever. And Matt Goldman takes his hands off his keyboard. He's mixing my epic while I'm talking to him. And he takes his hands off the keyboards, and he looks at me in the eye. And he's just like, amateurs wait for inspiration. Professionals write. So lock yourself in Studio B and don't come out until you have a song.
Wow.
And I was like terrified. And I went into the studio, and I was in there for maybe like 4 hours, just alone, no acoustic, nothing, just because I knew the song in my head. I just didn't have the melody or the lyrics. And I came out, and I was like, all right, I got it. And then we spent 30 minutes recording it. And then I was like, okay, that was your last day of recording. Go back home to Texas. And it was just like at that last minute, like, Matt Goldman knows what he's doing, and he knows how to push you, and he knows how to get that performance out. And it's obvious that when you hear those Under Oath records, there's just a sound there that I just don't hear nowadays. Mm-hmm. And I think that working with Goldman on top of the music I was raised with kind of, crossed together at this point to kind of push the best product forward. In my mind, I'm still very proud of that EP, and it should have been a nightmare. But Goldman's amazing.
One of the things I've really appreciated about Goldman's production is, nowadays it seems so common for bands, even like metal bands, to use kind of like some sort of electronic drum kind of thing going on. And what Goldman has been a master at, especially in like the mid to late 2000s, was he was able to get, regardless of like the skill of the drummer, he was able to get a drum sound that was like a perfect drum sound, but it wasn't fake. So you didn't have like that fakiness sound to the production of the drums.
Character.
But it was like he got the right, like the mic's in the right part of the room and all that, whatever he does, and he was able to like get it where it doesn't sound fake, but it sounds really well produced. And that's a tough thing to crack, is figure out, how can I get this so close to sounding where it could be fake, but actually isn't, and it actually still sounds real. Like, that is a trick to production that you rarely hear or rarely see. And Goldman, especially when it came to drumming, has just been outstanding at that.
The thing that I love about Goldman's mixes in general, I mean, the mixes sound massive, but the thing, 80% of, well, maybe not 80%, but like the reason why your mix sounds flat or big or like it all comes from the drum sound. And when your drums sound flat, your entire mix is going to be flat. And Goldman's a drummer, so like when I remember going into the studio for spinning, he was setting up the mics for the drums, and he already has like his house kit that he's just like, yep, every band that comes in here plays on this kit, and I'm not making an exception, and this is what we're going to do. And we're like, okay, because we just trust you. And he's moving around like the microphones and the overheads and everything, and he just spends like 30 seconds doing it. He just is kind of like moves it over once and moves it over once and moves that over, and all right, we're good. You guys ready to go? And we're like, how do you know this is going to be the thing? He just knows what he's doing. And like when we did the drums for, it's actually funny. Goldman ripped on us a little bit because when we were done with spinning, we did an EP after that we self-produced. It was our first, it was our first attempt at self-producing, and we went to go mix with someone else. And but at the time, like, we were in between drummers, and I was like, dude, I just want to be the vocalist on this record. I don't want to play drums and do I just want to be the vocalist. So we're gonna do fake drums, and we did fake drums for that EP, and we're finishing up a new full-length record with Goldman right now. And he was like, I understood why you guys did what you did, but the drum sound sucks, and I'm gonna do way better on the next record. And it's just like, I understand why you guys did what you did, but it's bad, and I'm not gonna do it for this record. And he rips into us all the time for it, and I think it's awesome. But because it's funny when someone rips into you, that, like, it's like, you're so good at what you do that if you rip into me, I just deserve it. Like Goldman just knows what he's doing. That he's like, oh, if you want to crack at me, that's fine, because I know that you know what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Was your most recent single with Goldman as well?
Yes, that one was with Goldman.
Okay.
The
well, I can tell immediately as soon as you hear the drum crack on there. I mean, it is so much bigger than your previous recording.
It's because, like, the Spinning EP and the new record that's going to come out, the last single we released, I think, was last year, and that's called Indecision. That'll be on the new record. We went on the road last year with Every Avenue and Makeout, and we basically called Goldman and we're like, hey, we're going to go out on the road. We have like a month and a half in advance. Can we rush a single out to get a song out so we can promote it on the road? And so we got that one done, and I was just blown away. Just absolutely blown away with it's like, it's the sound of my childhood, just with what I'm making now. Mm-hmm. It's nostalgic and modern at the same time in my head. And oh man, but the new record we're mixing, but that song will be on it. I think we have a few more singles, and then we're toying around with the idea of doing some covers on our own to kind of like sprinkle in some releases for the year, where it's like you get some of the full length and then some of what we're doing, but we just don't know exactly how it's gonna go down yet. But
well, we were talking beforehand. It's all ABBA covers, right?
All ABBA covers. Yeah, we saw the movie as a band, and the rest is history.
Wait, movie? What movie?
Mamma Mia. Sorry, yeah, the Mamma Mia movie.
Mamma Mia. What's Mamma Mia?
Do you not know Mamma Mia?
I'm just joking.
I was like, oh man, yeah, it's a movie full of ABBA covers. I've never seen it, but the guys have seen it, and they're like, we're gonna be an ABBA cover band.
It's not a good movie. It's not a good movie.
It has to be a good movie. They made 2 of them.
I love ABBA. I hate Mamma Mia. I wish it never existed. That's why I pretend that it doesn't.
Every time I see a new musical come out, I'm just immediately like, nope, I'm fine. I don't want this. I've seen Singing in the Rain. I don't need anything more. I love that movie. Like, Singing in the Rain is one of my favorite movies of all time. There isn't another musical that they can release that's going to make me feel better about musicals. It's just
my biggest red flag is I despise musicals. I remember even as a kid, I was like 4 or 5 years old watching a Disney movie, and whenever they would get to the musical part of the movie where they're trying to like string along the plot with a song, and I'm like, this is the worst part of a Disney movie, is the fact that they're trying to string the plot along with a damn song. It's act it out.
It's always the dumbest situations. Like, someone will be in the lunchroom and their lunch was messed up, and then they just start singing about how much their life sucks. Or something like that.
My mashed potatoes, they don't taste good. Yeah,
that sounds like a Bob's Burger musical.
I personally am a massive sucker for musicals, so I don't confer with your guys' thoughts here.
What's your favorite? Do you have like a go-to?
Phantom of the Opera is my all-time favorite.
All right, that's very respectable.
Yeah, of course it is. It's great.
New music coming out. Book of Mormon? Are there things in the new music that maybe we could expect that we haven't heard before from City of Auburn?
Yeah.
Like a VeggieTales cover.
Oh, don't tempt me.
Where is my hairbrush?
Okay. Side note to this, I I sometimes have, unlocked memories based off of like if I walk by a billboard and it has like a Veggie Tale on it or whatever, I'll
How many billboards have VeggieTales on them these
I was
days?
gonna say those exist.
Are you just talking about
I
vegetables
guess
in
I guess
general?
I'm speaking maybe metaphorically, but a metaphorical billboard with a Veggie Tale on it. But I was thinking about this the other day. There's this one Veggie Tales that's my absolute favorite, and it's the Englishman who went up the hill and came back down with all the bananas. Have y'all ever seen this one?
Yes.
Yes.
That is my absolute freaking favorite, and that just when you brought
That's a
that
very
up, it
underrated one.
oh, it's so
It
funny.
is underrated.
It is so funny.
Hold up, we got to pause just for a second. Mason, what's your favorite VeggieTales?
Like a movie or a song?
The song, movie, not song, episode, or
Just
movie.
I guess like any VeggieTales content.
So certainly, I always is it Lord of the what
Lord
is
of
it?
the
There was like the Veggie
Lord of
or
the
the
Beans.
like Lord of the Rings spinoff.
Lord of the
That was
Beans.
Lord of the
so-
Beans. That's right.
that
I was
was
about to say
so
Lord of the
good.
Flies, and I'm like, that's not right. Lord of the Beans.
All right.
Oh my god.
Mine was like I don't remember what this one was called, but it was like the Chocolate Factory one.
Yeah. Yeah, it was the
Oh.
well, it was like
the bunny.
Shaq meets
Yeah,
or the what was it like
Rat Shack,
Rack
Meshach,
Shack
Abednego.
and Benny or something like that.
Yeah,
Rack
yeah.
Shack and Benny. That's it. Yeah, that was my favorite.
That one went hard. I loved that one.
It did.
Uh,
It did.
The
You're dirty
bunny,
capitalists.
The bunny. Oh.
It
Okay.
creeped me out.
but
So I was at a Christian conference for like a denomination back in July, and this person at this conference knew that I was like a big grew up with VeggieTales, and there was one day I was like walking in early in the morning, like walking in right to my booth, and I like all of a sudden like somebody comes up from behind me and like whispers in my ear, and they start going, "Good morning, George. How are you? I hope you're feeling fine." And I was like, oh my God, I literally have not heard that song for at least 20 years. And then I looked up, I was like, what movie was that VeggieTales in? And then I looked it up, and it was in the Chocolate Factory one.
oh
"Good
my
morning,
gosh.
George, how are you?"
It's awesome.
Anyway, that's a good one.
Okay, another quick side
Okay.
tangent. I just discovered the magicalness of internetarchive.org.
Oh, you've never been on
And
that
you can
before? I
watch-
rip music from there all
Yeah.
the time.
I've been on there, but I didn't know how extensive this thing was. You can watch every single VeggieTales episode in its VHS form, ripped to the internet,
Oh,
and it is
heck
the
yeah.
most magical thing ever because I've never felt more nostalgic in my life. Check it out if you haven't.
I love that. I wonder if they have any Bible Man. I feel like
Oh.
a nice
I
Bible Man
I
trip
about
would be,
guarantee you they do. It's Bible Man. It's great. It's great.
okay. So in terms of new things
Sorry.
to hear, so I feel like, when I guess this might be kind of a weird explanation, but when Soul Searcher was released, I did an album before that that's no longer on the internet because it's bad and it sucks and it's awful. And then
It's on Internet Archive.
if it's on Internet just search City of Auburn. You'll know it when you find it. It's that bad. And there was another album I did after Soul Searcher before Spinning, and that was a full-length record that's no longer on the internet anymore. And the reason why I removed it is because I actually love all the songs on it. It just the record never sounded good. Like it never sounded the way that I wanted it to. And when Jordan joined the band afterwards, we always toyed around the idea of re-recording it and making it sound the way that it deserved. And so we were like, let's just take it down and kind of put that in our back pocket for a while. So this full-length record is that re-record. So like Indecision has been a song that I've had for like 10 years now. That's just now being able to, like, I'm just now being able to show it to the world in the way that I feel like it should have always been. So like this new record, it's strange because it's technically old material that the world has never heard because nobody knew about us until, where our EP, Where Does It Hurt? That's when we were getting on playlists and stuff. Like nobody, even Spinning is kind of like, not really the thing that people listen to. They always listen to Where Does It Hurt? And, but so no one has heard this full length. and it's kind of weird to be like, we're going to re-record a record that you've never heard. But
Sure.
this record, I would say, is significantly heavier than what's been like. It's still very like melodic and very City of Auburn sounding, but it's just a lot. I mean, there's like 6-minute long songs. There's very like anti-choruses. There's very different like song structures that we've just never done on, you know, on Spinning or Where Does It Hurt, on really on any of the EPs that we've had. We I don't know when this will come out or whatever, or what if the record will come out before this or whatever, but we just finished up we have a song with Garrett Russell from Silent Planet on it. We
Hell
got
yeah.
him to do
Awesome.
a guest
What a guy.
vocal, and he's amazing. He's so busy.
Yes,
It
he is.
almost took like a year to like make it happen. And
Wow.
but I love
Was it
can
hard-
take
was it
that
harder
with,
to get
with the
Garrett?
way he texts?
do what?
Yeah, no doubt.
He's like, I find him to be the most impossible texter ever.
Yeah, it was all
Was it harder to get Garrett or was it harder to get Stephen Christian?
okay. So what it was way harder to get Garrett for sure, but it wasn't like there was like a barrier between like contacting both of them, because you could contact both of them pretty
Yeah.
easily. But it
Yeah.
was just like, you know, when we got Amberlin to or when we got Stephen Christian to be on Spinning, I literally just found him on Facebook, like his just personal Facebook, and I was like, hey man, like, do you want to do this? And he was like, yeah, like just send me a song and I'll do it for this much and everything. And I mean, within like a month, I had the feature back. And then
That's awesome.
with Garrett, like we brought it up through Goldman, because like Silent has worked with, you know, Goldman
Sure.
in the past. So I was like, hey man, like, you know, could you hit him up? Like, could we just see if he's like, because we had a few different candidates for this part that we wanted. And we all kind of came to the conclusion of like, we would really love Garrett. And Goldman like hit him up, and, you know, Goldman was like, Garrett wants to do it, but like he's like really busy on tour. And this was before Super Bloom came out. And so he's like, they're kind of like doing the whole thing with that. And then Super Bloom came out, and then we, you know, Goldman hit him up again, and he was like, I still don't really know, because we're about to go on like the biggest tour we've ever done and everything. And then it finally got down to Garrett was like, I have 1 month off and I have to do it within this month. And if I don't get it done now, I can't do it for the next 5. And we were like,
Wow.
okay, it's go time. So like, it was like, Garrett was awesome. He's great. The feature is awesome. And he elevates the record in such a special way. It just took a while to make it happen, but when it happened, it was awesome. He's phenomenal.
I cannot wait to hear that. That's going to be amazing.
Yeah, I think that this record will be a lot more and maybe this is the wrong word to use, but maybe more art house, or more, you know, it's hard to say if it's like it's like I was so young when I wrote it, so like some of the songs are kind of youth groupy, but not youth groupy. It's very strange. It's a very art house kind of record, I feel. As it's a culmination of a lot of different topics and a lot of different sonic textures and things like that. I think people are going to be either, I'm actually quite terrified. I think people are going to be very like, this is way too far off the deep end. I just didn't expect this from this band. Or it's going to be a, you know, wow, this is where they need to be. I feel like it's going to be one of those two reactions. And
lyrically, what is it like? What is it like revisiting some of those songs from a younger you?
It's strange, because like when you revisit something you've written 10 years ago or even 11 years ago, I mean, it's just subjective. You are a different person 11 years later. You have different perspectives. You have different.
I mean, you literally cellular wise, you are a different human.
Yeah,
being.
exactly. Like
They've
all the
been replaced
cells
at this point.
Yeah, exactly. Like all the cells that made you who you are gone. There is no remnant of you anymore. All you have are your memories and your consciousness and what you bring with you. And it was kind of sobering to feel like nothing on the record is something that I don't believe in anymore. But I think that the way but I never wrote anything that was like, it was like, you know, strange or bad. It was just, I just viewed it differently at that time, and I just view it differently now. And I think that even going back to re-record, I did make some lyrical changes to be like more, this is what I feel like would represent this idea better in a more holistic way, or in a more more complex way. And instead of being like, I'm a youth group kid and I'm just going to say what I want. And it's like, well, you probably shouldn't, because you don't know a whole lot. And I think that going back to be like, I'm just going to kind of take what, has stood with me and take the other stuff and be like, I think I can make this better in a more, I don't maybe know what the right word is, but just, I feel like a more mature way of expressing what I was feeling. But not like there isn't anything on the record that's just like, there's some records I'll hear back from old Christian artists where I'm like, man, if you said that today, you'd be canceled. Or like, this would start massive outrage on X or Twitter or whatever. Like, that record never had that to begin with. But I do feel like there was just some youth group lines. I'm like, I don't like that anymore, but I think I can make this idea stand better. And it's honestly been kind of healing in a way to have a record that you love so much and it didn't turn out maybe the way that you feel like it should have. And now you get to go back and make it the best version of, that record, and also the best version of it, to represent the best version of yourself. And I think that Indecision, like Goldman changed so much about the pre-chorus and the chorus to that song. And I think it's for the song's benefit, but nothing about that compromises the original song. It's just all enhancements. And I think that I'm very excited to release it. It's healing to go back and work on something in that way that's so special to you and make it the best thing possible.
Love it.
Yeah, I can appreciate that for sure.
Are we ready for your top 5 most influential?
I'm so
albums?
ready.
Top 5 most influential albums. Are you ready?
I am.
Yeah. All right. Do it to it.
I spent so much time thinking about this. I think you sent me that you were going to ask me this, I think on Friday last week. I thought about it all weekend, going through everything I ever listened to.
You should feel lucky, because Mason never lets anyone know. He just springs it on
I
you,
am
so
like, I
you're one of the
much.
lucky few.
I even called my brother who like trickled down all the music to me, and I was just like, man, like, was there any record I was attached to and I'm just not thinking of? Like, and he was like, no, man, that list seems fine to me. And so I had to really separate between influence and my favorite albums, because these are the records I think that kind of shaped the way I kind of viewed things. And I think that it all kind of starts with like, why did I want to get into music like at all? Mm-hmm. And talking about the Day of Fire and Fireflight records, like those aren't the most influential records of my life. But at that time in my life, I don't think there was any more of a more influential record than Stephen Curtis Chapman's Declaration.
Really? This might be the first Stephen Curtis Chapman we've gotten on here before.
Oh, that's awesome. I don't know if, I don't know if anyone on this podcast listens to Stephen Curtis Chapman or even knows who he is, but
My mom does.
Everyone does. Especially Mason's mom.
I love Stephen Curtis Chapman. I think that he's been one of the artists that have been like, like I'll listen back to that old music and still feel like, man, this is still really good. And like I feel like Christian music sucks so bad that like when you have someone who's that great of a songwriter, like those songs just still are such earworms, and they are crafted so well. And I don't know what it is about Declaration, but even to this day, he's released, 5 or 6 records after this. And I still go back to that one. And I'm just like, man, that is the record that just made me want to do music. Like, listening to, even thinking about, like Day of Fire or Fireflight, being like, oh, it's like I can create music because the new bands form. And then always having an attachment to Declaration made me just want to just do that thing. And I love that record so much. Okay, so I mean that's my first one, Stephen Curtis Chapman's Declaration. My second, this might be a deep cut. I don't know. This sounds so very funny. But when I moved before I lived in Texas, I lived in Colorado. And in Colorado, I was homeschooled. And then when I came to Texas, that's when I got into public school. And I went to a youth group, and I found out about my very first my very first secular metal album, quote unquote. And that was Nocturne by the Human Abstract.
Really? Okay.
That record changed my life, because that was one of the records that my brother showed me, and he was like deconstructing like why this sounds the way that it does, because it's so classically like inspired. It's like neoclassical metalcore, and no other band was really doing that at that time. And that record, oh man, oh my gosh, like taking me back to that time where I'd be sitting there listening to like Vela Together We Await the Storm, or Crossing the Rubicon, and I'm like feeling like I'm listening to the most elite musicians possible playing metal music with like expansive Greek mythology lyrics. Like, just coming from like only listening to Christian Tooth and Nail stuff to listening to this, it was like an absolute game changer. And I think that that's like really influenced the way that I listen to metal, how I listen to even what we do in City of Auburn, of like, how do we make this sound better? How do we make this more dense? How do we make this more like that record, that record in very, basic terms, taught me how to not make things so basic. Like, you can always like push it just a little further and try to make it the best it can. So that's my second. If anyone on this that's listening to this has not heard that record, please go listen to it. It is an absolute gem. My third, it's kind of a combination of two records at the same time, but it'll make sense when I explain it. My third is Paramore's Riot / The Final Riot live DVD album. I remember, because I had watched bands' documentaries before. Like, I watched the Pressure the Hinges documentary for Haste the Day. I watched all the Under Oath ones and everything. But there was something about the Final Riot live album when you watch that DVD and you see the behind the scenes of how that touring life looked like, and when Haley Williams is screaming like, "Sing it louder," and they just do. It was like, as a kid, like, it was the most inspiring thing over, like, if I'm going to start a project, I want it to sound like that. And I just want to get that reaction out of what I do. And I think that really led me down this trail of finding alternative rock records that I just absolutely loved. It led me to go find Anberlin. It led me to go find Secret and Whisper and Sub 7, and like these bands that are just so monumental to me. Started with like walking upstairs, seeing my brother watch the music video for Crush, Crush, Crush. And I'm like, what the hell is that? I like turn that up, because I think that's what I want to do. But Riot and the Final Riot album together, because I bought them at the same time at Target with my $10 at the time.
That's a band where, we've had a lot of bands on the podcast that know Haley and know Paramore because, she grew up a tooth nail kid, essentially. Yeah. And one of the things that's really interesting, especially the bands that got to know her well, especially when they were really young, around the Riot years and even before, I forget what the first album was, but around that time, when Haley's like 16, 17, 18 years old, at that point, even everybody knew this is going to become one of the biggest things in the world, because she's extraordinarily talented and her performances are just out of this world. And the rest of the band is extraordinarily talented. And just everybody knew, even when they were super young, that they were going to become the next big thing. And it's one of those like sort of safe bets, like every now and then you get like a quarterback in the draft. It's like, oh, that person, that's just a surefire. Like there's no way this person's not going to become the best quarterback. Yep. And it feels like, when they were 16, 17 years old, it almost like for a lot of people, that was this band where it just, you knew at 16 or 17 years old, right before they blew up, they were going to become one of the biggest bands in the world.
I think that even seeing the behind the scenes of like how the touring life worked, and seeing their interviews of how they like wrote the intro to their Final Riot touring cycle, and how they like went into their offices to celebrate their record going gold or whatever, you know, like it was just so mind opening to me over like, this is possibly the best record I've heard at that point in my life. And then seeing all the behind the scenes of how it works, it's like, I don't understand how I could want anything less than this, and how I can be like more inspired by something else. I still will listen to that live record more than anything else out of their discography. Cause like the way that they play those songs live on that tour are just so unique and so well crafted. And Hayley Williams has never calmed down. Like she's still the Spitfire that she was back then. She has always been that way. And I think that like the heart of Paramore has always just been like, just freaking do it. And that's just something that's just massively inspiring to me. And it's always, man, I'll go into the guys sometimes and be like, man, like, why can't we just write something like Let the Flames Begin? Like, why can't we capture that? And I'm like, I want to capture that so bad. It's because the way they play it live is phenomenal. And we tried to do that a little bit on Indecision, but if we succeeded, I don't know. But
that's a band that, you know, you guys could play any one of their, you know, especially like Misery Business or something. You guys could cover that. And you could be in Texas or Colorado. Doesn't matter. People are going to jam out to that one.
We did Crush, Crush, Crush once when we first started as a band, but I didn't change the key because I thought I could do it in the same key. And that's that was a big mistake because I'm not Hayley Williams and I can't sing that high. But I'm thinking about it. It is weird because like I don't know, like I don't know if this is like an inappropriate can of worms, but like, is it like, oh man, I don't know if this is edgy, but is it appropriate for me to sing a Paramore song, like with me being a guy? Like
absolutely,
okay.
It's fine
because like because we've had times in the past where people like have said, you know, oh, you're just capitalizing off of like what a woman sang and you're just stealing that. I'm like, can I not be a fan of Paramore too? Am I not allowed to like sing along?
How are you like you're not making how much money are you making from covering a Paramore song?
Money, I would love to know about it. I would love to see it. So
I think it's more honoring than anything.
Right.
It's like, look at this great artist. I am never going to be the artist that they are, but look at
right.
I just want to like, you know, pay homage to them.
And I love the string or the thread between Paramore and Me Without You and all the Tooth and Nail artists, and like seeing the like the entire interview section of that Final Riot DVD. Hayley Williams has a Chariot shirt on, and I remember being as a kid, I was like, that is so cool. That's that really noisy band that my parents don't like me playing, and she's wearing that shirt. And I just that record, that era, that everything is just so massively important. You know what? I'm gonna sing Crush, Crush, Crush. I'm gonna do it. I'll change the key. I'll do it. I'll do it right now. So that's my third one. Paramore's Riot, the Final Riot. This one will be a deep cut, I think, or at least maybe not. I don't know. It's Fangs by Falling Up.
Oh, not a deep cut at all. In fact, we just scheduled an interview with
oh my God. Thank you. I love Falling Up content. That is so good. Falling Up is my favorite band of all time. They are my heart and soul.
That's awesome.
I love them to death. What's funny about Fangs is when me and my brother, we would always go to Mardell for like a new release and buy it that Friday or that Tuesday or whenever the records came out. And we would buy the physical CD and then we'd listen to it on the way home to from Mardell. And we would always have like a commentary on it. We'd talk about it. And I remember us just absolutely hating this album. We were like, what is this? And I don't know what it was, but like, I think that at the time, like I was listening to The Human Abstract and I was listening to other things that that me and my brother would talk about. And we were just like, I just don't understand Fangs. How do you go from Dawn Escapes to Captiva to Fangs? We were just so blindsided by it. But I was like, I just need to understand this album so bad. And it's one of my absolute favorite albums and also most influential because listening to that record, like I listened to it until I understood it. And it was such a culture shock to listen to, because it's like you have like sci-fi noises and the lyrics are so obscure and weird. The concept's wacky, the artwork, like everything about it was just so strange for me as a kid at that time. But it is like one of the most treasured records I've ever listened to. It means so much to me. That record taught me that music doesn't have to be comfortable. Like I feel like in the way that like Human Abstract taught me that like things don't have to be basic, and then Fangs was like, oh, also things don't have to be comfortable either. They can be expansive, they can be weird, they can be experimental. You can do whatever you want. You can have 2 minutes of a 5-minute song just be drums banging on each other, and that's a song. You know, like Fangs is so educational to me, and it meant so much. It was the most listened to record of that year for me. And I was like, I don't understand it, and I kind of hate it, but I don't want to hate it. I do want to understand it, and I just listened to it till that CD gave out. I work at a vinyl pressing plant, and I hit up Jesse about a year ago to do Falling Up pressings, and I guess all of them are out by this point, but I got to press all of them. I got to press Your Sparkling Death Cometh and nice. Silver City and Hours and Midnight and Earthship. I got to do those records for him, and it was just the most like monumental thing to press one of my heroes to vinyl. And like Falling Up, it just means the absolute world to me. And Fangs. Oh, sorry.
What's the pressing company that you work for?
Oh, I work for Hand Drawn Pressing.
Wow. Okay.
That's incredible. I don't know if this will make it in or it's totally fine, but I pressed Omni
really?
from Project 86.
Oh. So
that's why I watched the episode.
That might have been one of the sickest pressings we've seen.
That was such a fun project. The colors that he chose, I was like, I'm so glad he chose the colors that he did, because the black and gold thing like is so beautiful in your hands, and then the gold and the gray. Oh my god.
We got the reveal, right?
Yeah, you guys got the reveal, and I watched it kind of like hoping like, oh, I hope nothing's damaged. You know, like I hope that everything like turned out okay. But you know, I've done, you know, a Project 86. I've done Falling Up. I just did the new 5 Iron Frenzy box set. Nice. That was so much fun. And then there's some other stuff that I'm working on that I'll probably send you a message over, because I can't.
Quick side note: as a vinyl pressing guy who works in a plant that does this, how many vinyls would you say you have now? Yeah, there we go. This is what I'm looking for. Here's the money shot.
Oh shit! Oh yeah, that's a few. That's a few.
Yeah, just a few. Oh, there was one. There's one Falling Up right there, actually.
Is that a Sansui receiver as well?
I believe so. I'm gonna be honest. There was just a guy selling it on Facebook Marketplace, and it was like he said he's selling me the speakers and the receiver and everything for like $90. So I just kind of just kind of took it.
Hell of a deal.
But yeah, Fangs from Falling Up. That kind of led me into listening to more like Bon Iver and Gaudier and Now and everything, kind of like more not weird, but just more like out of box music, I think. This is my last one. It's man, I want to get this title right, because I mix my words a bit. It's super hypocritical for me to say this is so influential and I don't know how to pronounce it. It's How We Both Wondrously Perish from Being as an Ocean.
Oh, Being as an Ocean. Oh my gosh. That is, wow. I have not thought about that band in forever. Great music.
They are phenomenal. And that
Holy
record,
cow.
I don't know, you know, because everyone has a different opinion on what their best or what the best Being as an Ocean record is, because everyone's like hung up on like Dear God, and it's like, it's a great record, don't get me wrong, but How We Both Wondrously Perish, that is an absolutely flawless record. And I think that there are so many times where I've wanted to rip off that record, like just pure plagiarism. And the guys are just like, come on, Mike, reel it back. We can't, whatever. And that record, if anyone listening to this has not heard that record, top to bottom, lyrics in your hand, it is an absolutely life-changing thing. Like for me as a singer, as the singer for City of Auburn and also the lyric writer, it was just a massive inspiration, and like the topics and the emotion behind Joel's vocals and even the production, because that was done at Glow in the Dark. It wasn't done with Goldman, but it was done with McLennan, but it was done in the same place that we did Spinning. And just like,
who's also been on the podcast.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, we did a show with them a few years ago, and Joel was just the sweetest guy. And oh my gosh, they played so many songs off that record. It made my heart happy. But that record was, it kind of like set a lot of standards in my mind for post-hardcore and like lyrical writing and production and just crap. There's something on that record, and it's not to diss any other record they've ever released. There is something so monumentally special about the way they crafted that record. Because I know that, I know that their next record like came out like 11 months later because they were trying to get out of a contract, and that record is dope. But there is like such a special atmosphere to that record that I've still like, it's like an itch that I can never scratch. It's like, I want to replicate that somehow, and I just freaking can't. And that's just what makes that record just so inspiring to me. Of the lyrics, the topic, production, emotion, the how convicting that record is. It's just, it's an absolute like heartthrob record for me. Like whenever a song comes on off that, I am just, leave me alone. I'm going to cry. This is just that record for me. But no, those are my 5. I think those are the 5 that have really impacted and shaped me. And I think that now having like my favorite records of all time in conjunction with this, those 5 have really shaped me the most.
That is easily the most unique list we've ever had. Mason, would you agree?
I mean, yeah. I mean, you got some damn good metal in there. You've got Stephen Curtis Chapman in there. I mean, you've got a wide variety going on. It's pretty sick list.
Thank you.
I don't think we've had any of those albums, or maybe even any of those artists ever mentioned as a top 5.
Oh, that means the world to me. Then that's awesome, because I want people to listen to these records bad. And but it is strange because I'm 28, and a lot of my heroes are a lot older than I am, and I always feel like these are the records that like no one's heard about, and I'm like or besides Riot, of course,
yeah.
And so, but I fail to forget like how many people were a lot older than me listening to this music, at the same time, and like what influence that these records have had on other people, and just to kind of be like, I think this one kind of shaped my life, and people be like, oh my God, I love that record. That's very cool to me, how that's kind of connected a lot of people. But
Love
yeah, I would say those 5 have shaped me pretty hardcore.
Great list. Love it, man.
Love it. Michael, what do you want to plug? Obviously, clearly new music's going to be coming out soon. Yeah, what do you want to plug?
So we have a weekend run with May. They're
nice.
doing their 20th anniversary of Destination Beautiful, and they're coming through to Texas on May 17th, 18th, and 19th, and we're playing all 3 days. We're super excited about that. We will have new music out this year. Hopefully the full length will be out this year. But that is, I think on the City of Auburn front, that's all we have really that's been announced. I don't know what I can and can't announce. Sure. But that is what we're doing right now.
So Michael, anything else you'd like to plug?
Okay, so there's a website that I host, and if you go on Google and you search "Is It Christmas?" .com, there is a basically it's just a website that me and my friends host, and there's something strange about the web hoster that's making us like not the web hoster, because we host it, but the domain people that are just like, yeah, exactly. You brought it up. So they keep deleting like our domain access pretty much like every week, and they won't let us know. And so every time someone looks up the website, they basically, when it's not there, it basically sends us some sort of notification. It's like, hey, someone's trying to access the website, but it's not live. You need to go fix it or whatever. And every time that happens, it's like a 3-hour process to get it back online. And the only way that we can keep it active is that if more people search for it. So the domain people are like, oh, this is something that we can actually like keep hosting on our domain status or whatever. So like, if you could just go visit, is it Christmas yet? Or is it Christmas.com? I know it says no because it's not Christmas, but when you go on Christmas Day, it will say yes because it is Christmas. We just need to keep this. It's a very massive inside joke to me, but the amount of ad revenue we make from this like funds a lot of things that we do, and we just need people to get on the website. I know that's a very strange hobby of mine that funds a lot of things that I do, but if you can go to isitchristmas.com and just visit 2 or 3 times a day, let your friends know.
This is making me wonder, is Jimmy Eat World because they have isitemo.com?
That's a good question.
Oh,
it's a good question, Mason.
I mean, I don't know if they actually are the owners of that domain, but like if they are,
they have to be. They have to be.
That makes a lot of sense. I didn't know that there was more. Man, there's like a conspiracy now of like what bands of what websites they own. Because if we own Christmas, and if they own emo, can we ever release a Christmas record?
I'm pretty sure Skillet owns Jesus Freak Hideout. Because there's no way Skillet gets that high of ratings on any other website.
I love how this has continually gone back around to Skillet. It all starts and ends with Skillet.
Mason, that was the best joke you have ever made in your entire life.
That wasn't even that good.
That was a great joke.
Should we start the conspiracy theory that Skillet owns Jesus Freak Hideout?
100%. It's not a conspiracy theory if it's true.
Oh, it's true.
We need to see what ads are running on that site. That'll confirm it. If it's a UFC fight, if it's a vote for Trump now site, if it's a freaking a Daily Wire, like then you know that the Skillet is actually in charge of Jesus Freak Hideout.
Dana White is just like plastered all over the banners.
UFC people are definitely the people that listen to Skillet and then later realize, oh, that's a Christian band.
No, okay. This is total side note. Me and my brother, we were talking about why is Skillet so bad? Why has their music descended from like Collide, one of the best rock records, Comatose, one of the best mainstream rock records. These records are so monumentally good. What happened? They released a record called Awake, and that record is so mediocre, but it's not offensively bad. It's just so mediocre. Everything after that point has been a fight song. Every single song is a we're going to conquer. Baby. I'm going to make it. You know, I am unstoppable. I'm invincible. And they've just been, I am legendary. I am whatever. It's been like that. And if you watch any UFC fight, boxing ring, you will always hear Skillet, and it's always those songs. And I've kind of realized that the reason why this band sucks is because they have one trick and I don't like the trick. And it just, that's the thing that really blew my mind. I'm like, they've only written fight songs for the past 10 years now.
And John Cooper kind of likes to spit hatred everywhere.
Yeah,
there's that too.
He's like a guy where it's like, you know, let's just say you have an opinion on something. Let's just say you have a political leaning or whatever. Usually the first thing that you do to have a dialogue with someone is to not insult them. And it's just like, if you want to say something, just don't start with the insult. That would be cool.
Exactly. Especially if you were a cross-dresser back in the day.
It's like, we all know you wore leather, dude.
I have seen eyeliner on your face before
Yeah.
John Cooper.
Yeah, and a Karen haircut.
They
You
did
ain't
look
fooling
like a band of
anyone.
Karens at one point, I think. And it's like, you know,
Wait, what?
if
Sorry?
I don't know if John Cooper would ever listen to this or me or whatever, but I want to let him know. It's just
I
like,
hope he
man,
does.
I love those records so much. Just
Yeah.
stop making bad music, please. Just stop. And just
Yeah.
just please stop. Just stop.
Hey, well,
Be more authentic.
the
please.
military recruiter music industry is big, and somebody's got to make music for it.
They gotta be
It's
hyped
Skillet
up
and
somehow.
Demon Hunter.
And if Skillet's gonna answer the call, then
Somebody's got to.
somebody's got to.
Love it. Michael, thank you so much for chatting about City of Auburn. We're really looking forward to the new music, especially if you're thinking it is as artsy as you're saying it will be. I think it could
I'm
potentially
hoping, yeah.
become a top 5 album for either Cullen and I at the end of the year. So
If it's
we're looking forward
artsy,
to it.
Mason and I are there to be fartsy. So we're ready.
That's what we're
I
here
look
for.
forward to releasing it, and you know, if you guys hate it, you can tell me. I'm not going to be hurt by it. I'd actually be super interested to see what you guys think about it when it comes out, because I'm
Yeah,
very
for sure.
interested.
Love it. Love it. Thank you so much for
Love it,
chatting.
man.
Thank you so much for the time, guys. It was so much fun.